Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone is feeling rested and ready to absorb lots of very interesting facts and information. I'm going to start off this morning by introducing our first speakers who've come from a long way away. I'm introducing our co-presenters, Mayan Weisberg and Inbal Sikorin. They are from Tikkun Olam in Israel. And this is an overview of the Israeli medicinal cannabis program and patient care from a nurse's perspective. Mayan is the head of public relations and the head of international relations and business development of Tikkun Olam in Tel Aviv, Israel. The qualifications include a BA in political science and communications from Tel Aviv University. In 2009, she established the patient services and support department in Tikkun Olam. Her role included creating protocols of service and customer support for medicinal cannabis patients, recruitment and training of staff, establishment of PR and marketing department, creating marketing materials, and representing Tikkun Olam in medical conferences in Israel and internationally. Mayan also represents Tikkun Olam in the media in Israel and the international press. She has participated as a speaker in international medical cannabis conferences in Iran, Spain, and Cyprus. She attends MBA Open University, Tel Aviv, Israel. Mayan will share the stage today with Inbal Sikorin, also from Israel. Inbal is a registered nurse, was trained at Sheba Nursing School, where she graduated with honours in 2008. In 2009, Inbal completed a palliative care course for medical staff, a rich and wide course that changed her worldview of patient care and accessibility in nursing homes. She soon went on to become the head nurse of Hadarim Nursing Home. Between 2009 and 2011, Inbal initiated a groundbreaking medical cannabis program for the elderly of Hadarim Nursing Home in cooperation with Tikkun Olam Medical Cannabis Company. In 2011, she instigated an experimental government national treatment course for the instruction of medical cannabis for patients and played an important role in establishing patient guidance care with Tikkun Olam Treatment Clinic. She's gone on to be responsible for treating and counselling thousands of patients in the Tikkun Olam Clinic. The clinic now leads groundbreaking research into medical cannabis as a treatment for the elderly and includes creating a standard treatment, providing protocols of treatment, and collecting patient data. Inbal is now head of Tikkun Olam Treatment Centre. In 2012, the centre went on to commence a paediatric program for children with epilepsy. And in 2014, Inbal presented Tikkun Olam research and accumulated patient data of the Medical Cannabis Treatment Centre to the Israel National Nurses Seminar. Ongoing research and data in this area will be part of her presentation today. Inbal is currently leading a project of rehabilitation for veterans with Tel Hashima Medical Institute. Please make them welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mayan Weisberg and Inbal Sikorin. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much. I just press on this. Okay, good morning. It is an honor being here today. We wanted to thank United in Compassion, Lucy and Troy and the whole team for inviting us and making us feel so welcome. We're so happy we were able to share our experience and what we have gone throughout almost a decade of medical cannabis treatment and advocating. So as Tim said, I started as a volunteer in 2009. Tikkun Olam was a philanthropic company that provided medical cannabis treatment for free for a couple of years until the government established a proper program. And I have to say, it was crazy times. We were sitting, all the volunteers, I was sitting with cancer patients, PTSD patients, the elderly, young, and we were all rolling joints for the other patients together. Then we were starting to talk about the situation and the conditions, and we kind of created a small community of support between medical cannabis patients, and that kind of went on to being the company that we are today. And I wanted to share with you a bit what's going on in Israel, how the program works. So as you all know, a lot of the research started already in the 1960s with Professor Raphael Meshulam and Professor Yechiel Gaoni when they isolated CBD and THC and found the endocannabinoid system. In the 80s, this started already with clinical research. There was one research using THC to treat children suffering from cancer, and really that kind of gave the base for the medical cannabis program. In the 1998, there were 2 patients who applied to the Supreme Court to fight for their right to be treated with medical cannabis, and the government authorized. So they used to take their medical cannabis from the police, and there wasn't any suppliers. It was very vague and sporadical decision. And then in 2006, Tzachi Cohen, the founder of Tikkun Olam Company, came to the government with the idea of bringing medical cannabis as a professional program to grow and supply this medicine to patients in Israel. So he created a symposium, probably a lot smaller than this one, and he invited doctors from all over and tried to convince them to take part in this little experiment. And he succeeded. He received the first license after a lot of interrogation from the police, from the government, from many departments, and he received a license to grow and supply medical cannabis to patients in Israel. So this was in 2007, and as I said, the program was completely free. This was the only company that was acting, and through the years, other companies joined, and in 2010, the government decided that they have to address this little community and provide a proper regulation. So a set price for medical cannabis was given. Today, patients can receive their treatment. You do not pay for grams of medical cannabis, you pay for the treatment. So the treatment costs 370 shekels, which is approximately $100, and it does not matter what type of medicine and the amount of medicine that you receive. It can be from 20 grams to 200 grams. It can be in dried flowers, oils, capsules, in any type of form. Today, the medical cannabis program started from 5 patients with a license. It went up to 1,000 when the government decided to regulate it properly. And today, it is between 22 to 23,000 patients that are treated with medical cannabis in Israel. The main indications in Israel are the oncology, for palliative care and patients going under chemotherapy. I must say that it's not easy to receive a license. The oncologists have to decide that they want to recommend, and you have to be undergoing current treatment. Not all doctors recommend this treatment, but there are definitely 6 and 7 medical hospitals that are recommending this treatment. So it has moved a long way since the beginning. For chronic pain, which is the main indication in Israel, there are pain specialists that recommend for patients to receive a license. Again, you have to be, after 2 years in a pain clinic, you have to try all conventional medication, and after that has failed, the doctor can decide if to recommend medical cannabis or not. Gastroenterology department, Crohn's and Colitis, it's the same. Patients have to try most of the conventional medication, and then if the gastroenterologist decides, he can recommend to the government to issue a license. In neurology, there is Tourette's and Parkinson's disease and multiple sclerosis, MS. Epilepsy. So 3 years ago, they started treating children suffering from epilepsy because of public opinion. The parents of the patients came to the government, came to the hospitals, to the doctors, and demanded this treatment. This was shortly after Weed by Dr. Sanjay Gupta from the CNN. So there was a big buzz, and the doctors turned to the Ministry of Health, and they approved that. Last year, epilepsy in adults was approved as well. AIDS, suffering from nausea and malnourishment, and PTSD. PTSD, again, is provided after the patients have tried all conventional medication and failed. A bit about the bureaucracy, how this works. So there are two ways to receive a medical cannabis license in Israel. One is the medical specialist. According to the Israeli indications, you go to the specialist decides if you are eligible to receive a license. Then this doctor has to fill in a form, an electronic form. It takes a bit of time, and the doctor, of course, has to have a bit of information about medical cannabis and be willing to recommend this treatment. Then this recommendation is sent to the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health issues the license. It can take 45 days, and then the license is sent to the supplier. In our case, it's Tikkun Olam, and it can be any one from the 8 suppliers that Israel has provided a license to. The second way is the government decided that because the oncology patients cannot wait so long to receive a license, they gave a special authorization to 7 doctors in 7 medical centers to issue out a license directly in the hospital. So then the specialist decides that he wants to issue out, and these are head of the oncology departments. They issue out a license, then the patient receives the license, and he can call the supplier and tell him, I want to receive my medicine, and then he is invited. The medical cannabis unit is run by a doctor, Dr. Michael Dor, and they're in charge of authorizing, issuing, or dismissing licenses for the suppliers and for the patients. They decide the amount of grams if the doctor does not write it down in the form, and usually it starts from 20 grams per month. It's a monthly dose. They decide on the way of consumption. Most doctors are still not aware of the possibilities, so they just ask for a license, and the government decides according to the condition if they should have oils or dried flower or capsules, and they decide about the medical cannabis supplier. So the patient applies, the doctor applies, and then the government decides to which one of the companies this patient is going to go to. They provide licenses between 6 months and a year, depending on the condition. That's kind of in a whole the medical cannabis program in Israel. So I wanted to share with you a bit about what we're doing in Israel. Tikkun Olam. It's a vertically integrated company. It was very important for us because we were the pioneers in Israel. There wasn't any regulation. We didn't know exactly what to do. There were programs in the US that we obviously looked upon and tried to better understand how this is done. But from the beginning, Tzachi understood that we have to be very, very professional about what we do. We have to earn the trust of the government and earn the trust of the physicians, because they are the ones in control of providing these licenses. So we established an R&D breeding and cultivation facility up north. It's 33 dunam, and it's completely climate controlled. So every plant is barcoded. We know exactly from the mother to the clone, the genetics, until it's actually at its final product. So there's complete consistency and traceability. So we feel safe to provide our products to the patients, because if there, God forbid, is any problem, we can then trace back to the origins and make sure, that we can take that product off the shelf and send it to testing and see why there was a problem. Then we established an analytic laboratory where we can analyze cannabinoids and terpenes. The head of this laboratory is biochemist Chagit Yariv. She comes from the pharmaceutical world. She ran a pharmaceutical laboratory beforehand. This is for the past 2 years. We understood that because we're treating children and very vulnerable populations, we have to be very precise and exact with the amount of compounds in every product. We wanted to, again, provide a very safe treatment and make sure that the physicians feel comfortable in recommending this treatment. We work according to standards. So there weren't any standards of manufacturing cannabis. So we went to the standardization in the Israeli government for the ISO 9001, for hazard control, for pesticides, for good agriculturing practice, and created together protocols of manufacturing. So we would again feel that we are doing our best to provide a clean and safe product. The government demands of the companies to send each and every product to be tested in the microbiology laboratories for pesticides, for mold, for salmonella, for anything as if it's a food going on a shelf. And we send it to the Hebrew University, to Professor Raphael Meshulam's laboratory to be tested for the different cannabinoids. So it's a double testing. One we test in-house, and then we send it outside to make sure, again, that we know exactly what we're giving our patients. The cannabis is supplied through dispensaries. We have 2 dispensaries in Israel, one in the center of Tel Aviv, so patients can, be proud of the treatment that they're having, and one up north, and we have 2 clinical nurses clinics, one in the center of Tel Aviv as well, led by Inbal Sikorin, our head nurse and head of patient care. There we collect the patient data with protocols, we educate the patients, and that enables us to establish some kind of understanding and correlation between the different genetics and different symptoms and diseases. We established a clinical research department. This started in 2009 already. 2 years ago, Chief Scientist Professor Bentovich joined our organization in order to establish a wider program of clinical trials, working closely with the hospitals and universities in Israel. So it's not so easy to persuade the government to move with us and progress. So a lot of the discussions are about the ability to export our knowledge and data. And we have done on 2 accounts. We've done a joint venture with the medical cannabis licensed company in Canada, MedRelief. So they sell our proprietary strains that work according to our protocols, and we share the information globally. We hope that this will create a larger database so everybody in the end will be able to learn and derive information from it. And our next project is in the USA. We managed to close a joint venture over there, and we're going state by state. We're starting to grow in Washington, Delaware, and a couple of more states, hopefully by the end of 2016, and provide American patients with our IP strains and knowledge. I just wanted to say one more thing. I think it's really, really important what you're doing here today, because from our experience, we went to a lot of conferences. They weren't medical cannabis conferences, they were medical conferences. The government has not yet initiated a proper educational program for physicians and for nurses to be educated with this information, so they are able to decide on their occur if they want to recommend this treatment or not. So Inbal and I and a lot of our staff went from conference to conference, neurology, oncology, any geriatria, anywhere we would be accepted. And we stood in a booth and we handed out information. And it was very important for us, for the doctors, to have as much information as they can, if it's about the products or if it's about the plant itself. And we did this obviously for free. And we felt it was our obligation to advocate for this cause, because we were seeing firsthand what this was doing to patients. And we just couldn't let it be the way it was. We wanted more patients to have access to medical cannabis, so that was very, very important to us. This is just so this is just a few of our strains that we supply. We really believe that the wider range of strains that the patient can have access to is better treatment, so they can really decide for themselves. They can try a couple of strains. We can then recommend some for the night, some for the day. We do know some elements and symptoms that some of our strains are better for, but as everybody said here, this is not exact science. It's a very individualized medicine. And we intend to create more and more strains. We're working at the moment on strains with higher CBG, higher CBC, in order to provide better treatment, a wider variety. So we have sativas and indicas, hybrids, high CBD, high THC, just so really the patients can have access to as many genetics as possible. In our breeding and cultivation department, we're working with the Agricultural Government Research Institute. They have a database program where we then put in all of the information about our genetics and the genetics that we're working on, and we're kind of mapping out the markers in medical cannabis genetics for the future. So then we will be able to not only know the different strains and the different compounds, we will know more characteristics in the medical cannabis plant, like sustainability, pesticides, so you can make it organic, so the plant is stronger and easier to grow. Again, to ensure that we are providing the safest treatment we can. The products that we can provide under the supervision of the government, they decide the exact products that we could provide. So we have dried flowers or pre-rolled medical cannabis cigarettes from the different strains. We make extracts, high CBD, low THC, 1-to-1 ratios, pure cannabinoids. We have reached 99.8% CBD. There are only a very few patients that are receiving this treatment at the moment, children suffering from severe epilepsy and autism. But this is initial. We still don't have enough data about that. We're analyzing the terpenes, of course. We create decarboxylide capsules from the dried flowers, from the different strains in different milligrams to ensure that the geriatric patients or patients who do not want to inhale and vaporize can have access to this type of medication. Edibles today are authorized only for children, and the government is deciding if they want to continue with that as well. We used to make external ointments for psoriasis, but the government has decided to take that off the market. We've established the clinical data and research department, led, as I said, by Professor Tzvi Bentovich. He's an immunologist. He used to treat, he was one of actually the first doctors to treat AIDS in the 1980s. He went all over the world sharing his information about that. And he was one of the doctors who recommended the first patients who applied to the Supreme Court to get a medical cannabis license. One of his patients was an AIDS patient, and he helped him receive a license to take hashish from the police. Like you can see in The Scientist by Zach Klein, that Professor Raphael Meshulam, that's where he got his materials to isolate the cannabinoids. So we work closely with a scientific consultant, Dr. Natalia Kogan. She is a chemist, and she was a student of Professor Raphael Meshulam. Our research manager is a PhD student, Lihi Bar-Lev, and she was the first one to initiate clinical trial in 2009 with Dr. Timna Naftali on Crohn and Colitis with Meir Hospital. We have a scientific advisory board with Professor Ruth Galili from Hebrew University and Professor Shlomo Melamed, who is a glaucoma specialist. And we do clinical human research, retrospective, double-blind placebo, phase 1, and now we're starting off phase 2. This is just a wide list of some of the research that we're doing. Crohn's and anti-inflammation, and on epilepsy and dystonia and geriatric, and we hope to initiate more clinical research as the time goes on. Just a bit about our Crohn's and colitis study. This is, at the moment, we are at the 3rd clinical trial that we're doing. The first one was just a retrospective survey to kind of understand if there was any impact. Patients were receiving medical cannabis license, and they were suffering from Crohn's and colitis. And Dr. Timna Naftali and our Lihi Bar-Lev kind of communicated and decided together they want to find out how it affects, what it affects, why does it affect. So they surveyed 30 patients. They were using then, there was only one strain, the Erez strain. It was our first strain and the first medical Israeli cannabis to be supplied in Israel. And it was through inhalation. They would either smoke it in joints or vaporize it. We noticed that it reduced the symptoms and improved the quality of life. Obviously, we wanted to make it more official and we wanted to find out a bit more information, so we initiated a more strict double-blind placebo randomized. This was published in the Clinica Gastroenterology and Hepatology in 2013. Again, amazing results. We were very proud, but it wasn't enough. We needed pathological evidence. We wanted to see what this treatment was doing from the inside, to the blood test and to the Crohn's index. So at the moment, we're in the middle of phase 2 trial. It's cannabis-induced a clinical response in patients with Crohn disease and a randomized placebo-controlled double-blind study in Bet Cholim, in Meir Hospital. And it's done on Avidekel oil drops. It's easier to understand the exact amounts that every patient is receiving with oral consumption. We have drafted 36 of our patients, and we have midterm results, which are seeming very, very promising, not only for what the patients feel themselves, but for the clinical pathological data like the CRP and biopsy and colonoscopy. So this is for the Israeli patients. I wish it could be global to encourage them to participate in the research so we can finish it. We use in our clinic, in this trial and in some others, our Avidekel strain. It took us some time to develop it from interbreeding different types of strains that I'm sure you all know. And this strain was tested by Professor Ruth Galili in Hebrew University. She compared pure THC and pure CBD to the Avidekel extract, and she found that it was more effective from the inflammation side and from pain. So we felt safe to provide this strain to children, first of all, that are suffering from epilepsy or different diseases, and then to the rest of our patients. So intractable epilepsy, I won't talk a lot about that because Dr. Linder is coming up afterwards, and he is one of the leading doctors today in Israel that is collecting the data and treating his patients with medical cannabis. But this is 3 centers, Tel HaShomer, Wolfson, and Ichilov. It started in 2013. Like I told you, a lot because of the patient pressure and their parents. It's 130 pediatric patients, and we provide there's another company that provides the oil as well for this clinical research. The oil that we provide is Avidekel oil 1 to 20, either 30% or 15%. Another clinical research that we're doing, I'll just go on it quickly, is the effects on cannabis on dystonia and children suffering from CP. Dr. Luba Blunkin, neurologist from the Wolfson Medical Center, is in charge of this trial. We have already managed to draft 15 patients and hopeful to draft 40 pediatric patients, and we're trying to find out how this treatment affects spasticity, movement disorders, the quality of life, pain, sleep, behavior, and cognitive assessment. The results are promising, and obviously when this is ready, we will publish it and share the results with the world. Patient data clinical research. As you heard in our nursing clinic, we collect the patient data, and Professor Rafael Meshulam and Professor Victor Novak and Lihi Barlev are at the moment analyzing all of our patient data, and we're hopeful to publish this very, very soon. So we're sorry we can't share a lot more information about it, but as soon as we will publish it, it will be everywhere and open to the public. So we're actually trying to understand the patients, and before treatment, 1 month after, and 6 months follow-up. We have a medical form that they need to answer a lot of questions, and we're hopeful to understand a lot more things about this treatment in the future. A bit about our patients. So 47% are female and 53 are male, which is kind of surprising. We thought there would be a lot more males than females. According to the patient indications that are allowed in Israel, the most are cancer patients, then pain, PTSD, epilepsy, Crohn disease, Parkinson, and the rest. The average age of medical cannabis patient in Israel is around 60 years old. And patients answered this themselves. Do patients suffer from side effects? Only 18% said that they do, and 82% suffer from no side effects and are very happy with the treatment. The side effects that were reported were dizziness, dry mouth, sleepiness, confusion. Obviously, this is not a perfect treatment, and there are side effects, so this needs to be taken into consideration. So it's very important, the consultation and the guidance that patients receive before they start the treatment. And now I'd like to move this on to Inbal Sikorin. So thank you.
It's an honor to be here today and share our experience in the field of medical cannabis treatment and patient care for the past decade. I'm a geriatric nurse, and my encounter with Tikkun Olam and the medical cannabis was in 2009, when I was managing an old age nursing home in Kibbutz Nan, where I grew. When I tried to learn more about clinical documentation of treatment elderly patients with medical cannabis, I reached out to the hospital, university. I found out there is not a lot of information out there. And then I understood it's our responsibility, it's my responsibility to create a professional language for a common medical word. From the beginning, I understood that the role of the nurse in medical cannabis treatment is critical for success. A nurse toolbox and the responsibility of stabilized symptoms and is critical for success. Understanding the holistic need, the patients and their family. We need to understand the patient that tend to feel guilty, afraid, suspicious regarding medical cannabis, aware of the fact that the doctors are not so familiar with this treatment. This is why I will establish the clinic in Tikkun Olam. We built a protocol for treat.
We built protocols and monitor.
We monitor the quality of our nurses' education and the success of the treatment. We established our nurses' clinic in the center of Tel Aviv. On Tikkun Olam founder believe that sickness and suffering should not be excluded from the society. It's part from life, and it encourages sympathy and legitimacy. Our clinic door is always open for anyone that seeks for knowledge about medical cannabis treatment. Tikkun Olam from the founding and has promoted research, collaboration with medical institute like nursing home, hospital, and university. Our nurses' clinic is part of the collection patients' data and promoting the clinical knowledge, and then education medical staff with our finding. This enables us to match our strains and products to our patients' symptoms and the diseases. We see the success rate and rehabilitation of many patients through this system. Our nurses' clinic has provided to be effective as a tool of education and patient care. Our patient data is currently under a clinical trial, so we'll share some detail with you. I would like to share with you the story. In the beginning, when we opened the clinic in the middle of Tel Aviv, our neighborhood was a very suspicious. They didn't understand exactly what we're doing, and they looked at us very strange. It was a beautiful, very nice old couple that used to cross at 11 o'clock to cross our clinic. So each time they used to cross, the lady said to the man, "Don't breathe, take a big breath and cross quickly because it's a lot of poison there." So one day I was standing outside with a uniform and I said, "Listen, I'm a nurse. I know that you're scared. Come inside. I want to show you what we're doing here." And in that time, it was a children that consulting with a cancer, and I was sharing with them what we're doing there. and they become really, really for us. So every time a man without a hair crossed the road, they said, "This is Tikkun Olam, go to the Tikkun Olam." So
Changing public opinion.
absolutely. You know, to be a pioneer, I was afraid and worried. We really understand that we have to do it carefully, and still the THC have a side effect. We need to help the patients to understand the treatment. We need to help them to hold and to manage with the side effect. We have to be very careful. The patients come with a lot of medications, with a lot of diagnosis. They are weak, the blood pressure down. We can quickly become, make it worse. We have to be careful. They can fall down. We have to teach them how to take a shower carefully, and all this kind of needs to defend the side effect. Of course, we see a successful, and we're really glad. But by this side, we still have to research and to understand more. To conclude. Okay, so maybe just we go back for a while and we speak about the RIM project. In the beginning, in 2009, I went to Professor Mishulam and I said I want to see if it's any influence by the cannabis on the elderly patient. He said, "Listen, bring me a rat, I can fix the rat, but a human being have any idea. But let's try." So we choose 5 common symptoms that are very common in the elderly patients. Polypharmacy, it means you take more than 8 medication for each day. Pain management, spasticity, depression, agitation under a different kind of dementia, and nutrition index. I would like to share with you a small story about the spasticity. Look at this lady. She's Holocaust survivor. She's 97 years old. Look at the position she's holding the arms. It's stiff. It was very hard to take a shower and to treat her because you can break the arms, and look at the result. We bless the change that happened in Australia. We are moved by this wonderful symposium, and we will be delighted to take part of this revolution. We believe it will be collaborated, will success. Thank you
very much.